Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 168 of the show, and before we get started, I'm going to do a bit of house cleaning quick, because, oh boy, you guys know we like to do it around here. It only makes sense that we do house cleaning, so let's get on with the house cleaning, because we got a good amount of stuff to talk about today. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really does mean a lot to me, guys. Constantly keep downloading these episodes, you keep sharing them, you constantly keep letting me know how you feel. Whether you like the show, whether you don't like the show, whether you like the topics or you don't like the topics, whether you like my stupid face or not, if you're watching the video version, or, you know, stupid voice if you listen to the audio version of the show. But in the end, I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for everything you guys do. The fact that you guys, you know, listen and that you let me, you know, have a piece of your day to, you know, make the episodes. But to me, I really am thankful. I thank you guys that you helped hit the show over 2,300 total downloads. I think we're at 2,358 right now. So I greatly appreciate that. We definitely have already closer to 2,400, and hopefully we can hit the goal of 3,000 by the end of the year. So again, greatly appreciate it. Let's keep going, guys. And it just really means a lot to me. I do also want to say a little bit to the people that are watching the video version. Sorry for a little bit of the mess in the background. Like, I can explain that a little bit, and I'll jump into that because today has been a really crazy day. I tried my best to not look like an absolute mess. It's been a long day. We had a flooding incident here in the building. Thankfully, none of my stuff got flooded, so kind of grateful about that. But it's definitely been pretty hectic. You know, I got woken up at like 5 in the morning, and we had to hit the floor running, and so it's definitely been a very long and stressful day. But it's just a way for me to relax. And I was happy that what happened today, and especially because of today's topic, that it's just a way to relax and have a little bit of fun. And I've always mentioned that to me, like for me specifically, like the show is always a good way to relax, to unwind, to talk about what's on my mind and share with you guys what I think about stuff, because that's really the whole point of the show. But I do thank you guys for everything. Thank you guys for your time. Really appreciate it. But now it is time that we get on with today's episode, because we are going to be talking about the Apple Event 2021 recap. And there's been some mixed reviews online about the show. Being honest, there's been some people saying it was a show. There's some people saying, hey, this is one of the best Apple events we've had in a long time. I personally fall under the camp that in terms of eventful, yes, it was a very eventful show. One of the more eventful Apple events that we've had in a long time, because we got to see a lot of new products, or at least refreshes that were necessary, and a lot of interesting things as well. So how did we start off this whole shebang? So we started off with a new iPhone color. I was kind of surprised that they decided to do that, just add a new iPhone 12 color. They added purple. I'm like, okay, you could have just had this at launch and not wasted everybody's time. Like, you know, OnePlus used to do this, very notorious for doing this, for launching the phones originally and then launching this special color later on. And people were like, oh, this is so BS. You know, I bought this phone and you made this other color. And it's like, In my opinion, personally, if you're going to launch a smartphone, you might as well just have all the color options up front and not just hold another one back and be like, oh, buy it later. And I'm like, dude, there's people that really want that color. So just give them the options all up front, or, you know, but, you know, that's just how things are. But going from the iPhone, because let's be honest, that was probably the most eventful thing that happened at the event. Let's talk about AirTags finally making their appearance. And oh boy, definitely an appearance they made. And the pricing was just right. $29 for one tag. And then for a pack of 4, $100. And then yes, they also showed off the accessories like the keychain, and definitely went into detail like using the ultra wideband and how these things work. We don't really need to go into detail about them. mainly because it's very simple. It basically works like a tile. The only difference is that it uses the Apple ecosystem as a way to find your products. And I think it's just really nice. I think it's really handy. I think it's cool that Apple realizes, hey, how big their reach is in terms of how many people use their products and buy their products on a daily. So making a tag that helps track those products is definitely very useful. And, you know, making good use of that ultra wideband chip that they have in their phones and new products coming out. The next product that was shown off was a new Apple TV 4K. This one for me is a sleeper in the sense. I mainly say that because I personally have never cared about an Apple TV. Never have. I always thought they were a waste. I thought, you know, Google's implementation was much better using the Google TV thing, or, you know, the Google Stick, if you want to call it that, or the Amazon Fire Sticks or things like that, Chromecast. But I really like personally what Apple did with the 4K. So what did they do exactly? So yes, it uses an A12 processor, so now it's able to handle more graphically intensive things, you know, pump out better pictures. It allows you to actually play back video footage shot on the iPhone 12, you know, the iPhone 12 Pro Maxes and the iPhone 12 Pro in general, of the Dolby Atmos Vision. Or I think it was like the Dolby Vision video footage, whatever they want to call it. But it's very interesting because there's a feature in there that I think a lot of people should do and other companies should catch on, which is color calibration. So what it does is that it takes your, you know, it puts a signal on your TV and you use your iPhone, your camera on your iPhone to scan it, and the Apple TV will automatically color correct your TV, even if it's not calibrated, you know, itself, so that it gets a more accurate color. And I personally think it's a really cool feature to have because a lot of people don't want to mess with the colors of their TVs. You know, they don't want to deal with calibrating it. And I don't blame them because it's kind of annoying because you have to go through, mess all the features, you know, touch this, touch this. And it's just nice that the Apple 4K TV does it for you. That you just scan your phone, it scans the TV, and then boom, automatically just does it, and it does all the work for you. And it doesn't touch the TV. It just does it all in the box. So personally, I think that's cool. I like how they redid the box. You know, a lot of people like it. A lot of people like the Apple TV. So, hey, if you like it, cool. You get a new Apple TV, and a lot of people are waiting for a new refresh. So we got it. But it's time that we talk about the two big boys of the conference, like the two main products that everyone is talking about, that everyone cares about. So let's talk about the first product, the big first product that they showed, which was the new iMac running the M1 processor. And I was surprised personally. I think personally, from my perspective of things, I was surprised that they ended up showing the new M1 Mac. I was not expecting them to do it. I thought this was just, you know, low ball situation. I thought new AirPods had a higher chance being shown off than a new M1 Mac. But the fact that they decided to show off the M1 iMac is great. Jon Prosser was right. Yes, his leak or render was not 100% accurate. In terms of the colors, yes, it was accurate. It's just in terms of the bezels and how the display would look, yes, he was wrong about that because Apple decided to continue using the same bezel design that they've always had with the iMacs and just making it a white face. However, I do like a lot of the changes they did. And the pricing, in my opinion, is fair with what you get. Starting at, you know, $1299 for the base model with 8 cores CPU, 7-core GPU. For $1499, you get 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, but you also get the new keyboard with Touch ID built in and the mouse. And then for $1699, you get the same thing. It's just double the storage and the keyboard and mouse. For me, I think this is really cool. I think having a new M1 iMac is a great way, especially because of what they did, like having a 1080p webcam, you know, having the new display, having the speakers. Personally, I think in a school environment, this is going to be gangbusters. It's going to sell like crazy. I don't think for professional use it's going to sell like crazy, but I know for a lot of people, as their all-in-one desktop computer, they're going to love this thing because it's just a really good value for what you get, and the performance is great. And the fact that now it's on a proper desktop, I think is going to be really cool and really exciting, if I'm being honest with you. Yes, do I agree that the bezels are not the best? Absolutely. I think the bezels are kind of dumb. The fact that they didn't reduce them or at least change it up. But, you know, little by little, I think they're probably saving that for the 27-inch or maybe an even bigger version, because this is a 24-inch. So it makes sense that they wanted to save that for a later design. It makes sense, or maybe save it for the iMac Pro. I definitely think for the iMac Pro, we will see a redesign where it's a full display. it makes logical sense for the Pro to make it look like the XDR display, which we're going to talk about that a little bit shortly. But to me personally, I think it's cool that we got a new iMac. Did I really care? Not really, but there's a lot of people that do. And the fact that they brought back the coloring scheme, with different color iMacs, which we haven't had since the very first, I think that was awesome. I know a lot of people are excited, a lot of retro fans that love the original Macs. It's really cool, and I'm excited to see how this all turns out and seeing how it all runs, comparing the M1 MacBook Pros, the M1 MacBook Air, the M1 Mac Mini, and now a new M1 Mac iMac, essentially, or the Mac. That's always what people say. The Mac is always the iMac. But for the piece de resistance, the piece, or I would say the product that I really cared about the most, but it's also the one that, if I'm being honest, I'm the most pissed off about. And let me explain. So the last product that they showed off was the new iPad Pro. We knew that there was a new iPad Pro coming. We talked about it in 2020 when my iPad Pro, the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch launched with the LiDAR and everything, that there was going to be another iPad, but it got pushed back. They decided to hold it back with the mini LED, which I still think it should have been in the 2021 or the 2020 iPad Pros to begin with. But the fact that we finally have them now, and the benefit is now they're running the M1 chip. And this is huge, especially because the M1 chip is much more powerful than anything the iPads have had before. And the iPads have always been known for always being ahead of the competition. The iPad Pros have always been considered a mile and a half ahead of Android tablets. And now that they're running the M1 chip, it's a solidified that Apple makes the best Pro tablet on the market, period. No competition, no rivals, no equals. And I know some people say, Josh, you sound like an Apple bootlicker right now, but I'm stating facts here. We're not stating opinions. We're stating objective fact that yes, it is going to perform better. And the fact that now it has the M1 chip, that also includes new upgrades that come with it, which primarily the fact that you can have up to 16 gigabytes of RAM on an iPad. And this is huge, especially because an iPad has always been capped, or specifically the Pros have always been capped at 6 gigabytes of RAM. You're like, what the heck? But it runs so well and it's so efficient. I'm like, yeah. But the fact that now they're placing the iPad as a true laptop, as a laptop replacement, as a professional tool, the fact that it goes up to 16 gigs of RAM on a mobile device is insane. And yes, it runs the M1 chip, so it's going to run well. And based on what they said, by speculation, they talked about all-day battery life. I don't know if that means that it's going to have the same battery life as the M1 MacBook Pro. I really hope it does, because if I have an iPad with that kind of battery life, bro, that's crazy good battery life. That's wild, and that's awesome if we can get that. However, I do like what they did. I like the fact that we got the 12.9, we got the 11-inch, that they didn't get rid of the 11-inch. I'm glad. A lot of people really like the 11-inch. However, I have a problem, though, that we'll talk about. But what I really like is how they finally introduced the mini LED display technology in the iPads, and they made it, they're basically called Liquid Retina XDR, which is, it's making the same display that the Pro Display XDR has and putting it on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. My problem that I mainly have is the fact that they did it only for the 12.9. Yes, I know we've seen examples of this with the iPhone 12 Pro and the Pro Max, that the Pro Max is the one that has the new camera sensor, that has a better camera or main camera sensor than the Pro. And yes, we've seen example of this multiple times. I just don't think it made sense to do it with the iPad, because not everyone likes the 12.9 inch. Yes, I get it. You want to push people to buy the 12.9 inch, but not everyone buys it. The 11 inch is always going to be the better value for a lot of people, especially in terms of size and portability. Just carrying the 11 inch makes sense. And it's a nice display, because a lot of people don't use the iPad as their main device. They like using it as just a mobile device to have on them, for doing workloads, if they need to do workloads, doing continuity, if they work in the Apple ecosystem. So do stuff on a Mac or a MacBook, and they can take their iPad somewhere and work on it there, or look at notes there. And the fact that the 11 inch is the more portable option, I think it was a bad call on Apple to not put the Pro Display XDR or the Liquid Retina XDR, whatever you want to call it. Let's just call it the mini LED display. The fact that they did not put it on the 11 inch was shocking that they didn't do it. I still think that was dumb. I don't think that was a bright idea. I think separating the product lines was not a good idea, especially with the iPad Pros, which are a very popular product. I think it's cool that they kept the pricing down, that the base model starts at $70.99 and then the 12.9 starts at, $10.99, so $300 difference. But yes, the main benefits are with the 12.9, the fact that it has a new display, obviously it's going to have bigger battery life or better battery life in general. The fact that, it's also going to have 5G built in, the fact that it has, the fact that they both have up to 16 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage now. And in terms of the RAM options, based on what we were told from the Apple website, is that 8 gigabytes of RAM will be in the 128, 256, and the 512 storage options. And then the full 16 gigs of RAM will be in the 1 terabyte and the 2 terabyte SSD options. So we did get upgrades because now we have 10 more gigs of RAM added to the iPad Pros, and we also have another terabyte of storage. And a lot of people are going to go for that fully maxed out model because it makes sense. Now, the fully maxed out model, though, if we're talking about the 12.9, is $21.99, and that's a lot of money. Like, we're talking about over, if we're using Texas sales tax, $2,400 for this damn thing. And then, the 11-inch start is maxed out at $18.99, I think, if I'm doing my numbers right. But it's wild that, yes, these are definitely the most expensive iPads we've ever had. They're also the most performance heavy iPads we've ever had in a while. And I know some people have made the comments where they're like, Josh, what's the point of buying a MacBook now that the iPads have all the, pretty much the same processor? Now they have the exact same processor, same RAM, same storage options. Like, it's literally a MacBook. Why would you ever buy a MacBook now? And it's one of those things where it's a difficult question to answer, if I'm being honest with you. The reason I say this is because, yes, you're basically trying to compare iPad OS to Mac OS, and that's not a fair comparison. However, the fact that the iPad Pros now run the M1 chip and run more RAM and run more storage, I think this is what's going to push Apple to add a lot of Pro software onto the iPads, like adding full Lightroom or maybe adding, Final Cut Pro. I know a lot of people have been championing for Apple to finally put Final Cut Pro on the iPad Pros because people like using their iPads for video editing. There's people that use it as their daily editing machine for their videos. And I just think giving people that option of having that software, because now it's exactly the same in performance, exact same. It will run it. It's just, how do we do it? How do we get about doing it? And in many aspects, some people say, well, the iPads would be dead if Apple decided to put a touchscreen on the iMacs or the MacBooks. And not necessarily, because a lot of people like carrying the portability of the iPad. The only problem is then they start selling keyboard cases. They also made a new Magic Keyboard, an updated version in white, and a lot of people really like that color. They also got 5G. So, if you like using cellular connectivity with your iPads, then there's 5G built in, so you can use 5G. But it's just one of those things where it's interesting, too, that they ended the event with the iPad, that they smoothly transitioned from the iMac, this big announcement, to the big announcement of the iPad Pros with an M1 chip. However, like I mentioned before, and I'll say this again, I do not agree with Apple separating the product line. I don't think that it was wise to separate your user base to be like, oh, if you want all the good features, all the new display features, then you got to buy the 12.9 inch. And there's a lot of people that don't like it because they don't like the size. That's why they bought an iPad. They bought an 11 inch because it just doesn't fit the same or feel the same in terms of weight as a 13 inch, 15 inch, 17 inch laptop that people like having a much lighter load. And to me, I think it's sad. I think this is only supporting the rumors that the 11 inch will be gone soon. Maybe not this year, but the year to come, that they'll just get rid of it and just stick with the 12.9 inch. Or I don't think they'll go bigger. Let's be honest. I don't think they will. But I think that would be pretty crummy to get rid of the 11 inch. I think the 11 inch should stay, but I think they should keep the 11 inch on par with the 12.9 inch. And that the only difference you're paying for is just a bigger battery and a bigger display. It shouldn't be, oh, you have to buy the bigger device if you want the better display or you want the better battery and you want the, it shouldn't be that way. Some people are also salty a little bit too that we didn't get a new Apple Pencil, but I think it's fine. The Gen 2 is perfectly fine. It does everything we want it to. It's basically the best smart pencil you can buy. And I think Apple's just really biding their time before they do like the next super big refresh for the iPads, that when we're going to get a new Apple Pencil. However, I think this was a good event. Personally, in my opinion of things and how I view everything, I think this was a good event. I think Apple hit it out of the park. I think finally giving us AirTags was a great way to start off the event. Even though, yes, I know what really started the event was a new iPhone 12 color, but we ignore that because that doesn't matter. I think starting with a new product is great. I think reintroducing the iMac, but with an updated design and also updated internals, great idea. I think the new iPad Pros are amazing, and I'm excited to see these things in action in people's hands, doing reviews, doing tests, because I really like the iPad Pro. I've stated this multiple times. I am on the iPad Pro bandwagon. I will always say the iPad Pro is one of the best products Apple has ever made, and it's still one of their best products to date. It's better than every iPhone. It's better than every product they've ever made. The iPad Pro is definitely one of my favorite products Apple's ever made. And I'll say that. I'll say that firmly, and I'll say it wholeheartedly, because it's just that damn good. But I don't agree with separating the cycle. I don't agree taking features away from the 11-inch just to keep it all in the 12-inch to force people to buy the 12-inch, because that's a $300 difference. And I don't think people are willing to spend $300 for a display. Yes, in terms of value, you get a lot of value. Same thing with the iMac. You get a lot of value for what you spend that a lot of people don't seem to understand, that there's good value there. But at the end of the day, it's going to be very interesting to say the least. I'm excited to see how this all plays out. And I'm excited to see these in people's hands. I'm excited to see what people say about the new iPad Pro, if it really holds up to the claims that Apple has for it. And I know if Juan gets his hands on one, he's going to have a field day. Well, I think Jerry from Jerry Rig Everything is going to have a field day breaking these things apart. But it's going to be fun, guys. But in the end, I do thank you guys for your time, for listening to this episode, for sharing this episode. You guys honestly mean the world to me. I greatly appreciate it. You know, if you're listening to this episode on a drive home from work, or you're listening while at work to buy a little bit of time, or you're listening during your lunch break, or you're just listening, you know, doing homework or in the middle of class, I really hope you're not listening to in the middle of class. You should be listening to your professors. But I really do appreciate you guys all. I honestly appreciate you guys so much. It means the world to me. You guys mean the world to me. I really appreciate it. I thank you guys for being patient with me. I know I'm a bit tired. I know it's been a long day, but I'm having fun doing this. And I hope you guys enjoy this content. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I know, again, there won't be a Friday episode because school has been busy, but thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. Audio listeners, you guys are great. Love you guys to death. Video, watchers, I really love you guys and appreciate y'all to death. If you like what you hear, then you can click the links down below to follow me on my social medias, or you can hit up my Patreon page to become a Patreon backer. Also, Patreon backers, I am so sorry because I didn't shout you guys out at the beginning, but thank you, Patreon backers. You guys are great. If you want to become a Patreon backer, click the link down below. You can find it in the audio version or the description in the video version. At the end of the day, guys, continue to be safe. Continue to take care of those around you, because you just never know. The world's a weird place. Don't do anything dumb this weekend, guys, or don't do anything dumb this week. Try to be safe, just be safe. Take care of those around you. Be mindful, be respectful, be kind and courteous, because that's really what makes a difference in everyone's lives, is being kind, being courteous, and being willing to serve rather than being served. But I appreciate you guys so much. I love you guys to death. Please have yourselves a wonderful week and a weekend, and I will see you guys next week, guys. Love you guys to death, and bye.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.